Can you hear me now? No idea. Give it.
I can hear you.
Just trying to give this a second. There it goes. No idea. All right. Let's try this again. All right. So, hello and welcome to the Black Tower. I am the Sorcerer Ahrimanahsul. It's good to see each and every single one of you all here tonight. I brought a sister and a friend with me, Zamara,
Hey.
so that we could go over a really in-depth conversation. She's been wanting to do another live stream with me, and my little buddy here, she's about like me. She gets a little bored, and since I had the conversation piece or the subject that I wanted to go over, wanted to bring her in on this because she brings with her a unique approach to looking at things in a whole nother light than say somebody who's been practicing the occult arts or the arcane arts or however you wish to prefer, however you refer to it as. Uh, with that being said and done, I want to say hello and welcome to each and every single one of you. I appreciate you being here tonight. Uh, Wanted to go over memory and more importantly, memory within blood. Uh, I We were talking earlier, Zamara, and you were saying that you had heard of what I'm referring to.
Yes, I've heard of it very briefly. Um it's strange, I think, that we don't hear about it more. And my understanding of it is that our blood has something to do with, like, some people believe they're star seeds and they came from, other spaces in the universe before embodying this body here on Earth, and that the blood is somehow a linkage to that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, that's just a small piece. I think that that's more advanced practitioners as far as discovering where they hail from, where they come from. Even when you're talking about the lines of like reincarnation, because past lives, it's all held together in that same line of thought, if you will.
Right, right.
But
Well, and why don't you think that this is talked about as much? Because it's a big deal. Like, even this last week, I had a relationship that's recently kind of, I've decided it's time to call things good and go our separate ways. And I've been realizing that there's been a karma there that's not necessarily from this lifetime, you know?
yeah,
And
okay. Well, to start this off, I'll go back to my days of study, research, and practicing of the shamanic and the druidic path. And in no way were they ever the same. Uh, I tried to mix a Celtic mythos, if you will, with my particular druidry, but however, I couldn't quite get the shamanism aspect of it to work right because it's a whole other system altogether, despite all the similarities and differences. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because when I was studying and researching druidry and I was going through the practices and so forth and so on, and trying to become knowledgeable of plants and minerals and stones and all this, come to find out that so let us take trees, for example. All trees drop seeds. Well, here's the thing. Genetically speaking, trees contain memories. They, not just DNA genetic coding and stuff like that, so that it passes on its particular species. Because I mean, you got oak, pine, cedar. I could go on and on. I'm not going to go there, but I'm just saying you have all these different things. But the thing is that during Druidry, when I was learning this, I was learning. I would read from the Feral manuscript. I was talking about the Song of the Trees, and the Song of the Trees is actually a song, and it's more like a Edda, I guess you will,
mhm.
like North Scandinavian, Viking era type stuff. So it's not just a song of memory, but it's to awaken the trees. And
Mm,
at any rate, so you communicate with the spirit of the tree. And every tree is unique and different, yet they're all connected. And with them, with this connection, also comes memory. So, like you can imagine that there were trees that are now extinct that no longer are on this earth, that have died out or were wiped out because of, the cold, stuff like that, during the ice ages, whatever. And I'm not trying to start argument of, well, they went into dormancy and all this, that, and the other, but there are species that are no longer upon this earth. They used to be.
Yes.
Here's the thing. Modern plants and trees still contain the memories of the original. The same way as when somebody is sitting there and is following their bloodline and finding out their past lives. The exact same thing. And trees can tell you things that happened upon the earth
way long ago. That's an interesting point, because I'm always questioning people's I guess account of history, and I'm like, okay, where's the guy who was there to witness that? Like, where is the proof? Where's the experiencer, behind that? And I have a friend that's into the ecosystem, and she's going to school for it, environmental something. And she was telling me how when we walk through forests, trees basically have kind of their root systems can sense our presence there, and they give out different hormones depending on our mood or what the case might be.
Yeah, it's like if you've ever walked in the woods before, most woods that I've walked into were very friendly, despite, you know, and while we're in the state I live in, I've been lucky that when we talk about woods, I'm talking about thousands and thousands of acres of woods. I'm not talking about, 2 or 3 acres. No, no, I'm talking. I live near the boonies, so it's not a problem. But most of them I've been into. There's a lot of New Age thought that goes into bringing offering into woods and forests and things like this when you
For
first
the fairies, right?
to land spirits and so forth and so on. Milk and honey are usually ideal offerings. They usually are. That's the most ideal offering. You can also bring it. You can also bring milk and honey mixed together as an offering to the land spirits if you're going to be doing a rite, so that they're totally cool with you doing your thing there. Even if you are trying to open up a devil gate, devil gate. But sorry, a little sense of humor there. But anyway.
So when you talk about trees having memory, is it that memory that you think, because you were saying it's beyond genetic and the genes and the DNA?
Well, yeah. Think of it this way. So there is a door, symbolically speaking, that is used to access memory. And most people don't know this. Some well seasoned practitioners might be aware of this, might consciously be aware of this, but the key is sorrow. Because, and here's why: memory. If you were to be eternal and like live forever, you would watch things come and go. You would see something that you loved and adored die and pass.
Mm.
And so sorrow is the key. That's the key emotion. So what you do, so the trick to opening that door or to finding the door within yourself is to think along the lines of, if I was immortal and I was the only one that was immortal, how much would I see? What would I witness? And as these things start to pass, you would be filled with this kind of like a melancholy, like a sadness,
a numbness almost.
Yeah, and this is called memory. Memory has a feeling, has a distinct emotional feeling with it. Matter of fact, I use the exact same concept when working with the death current, because death is much the same way. People think of death as being an ending. Death is not an ending. It's
a remembering of what was.
Exactly.
Wow. That is huge. Like, for me, holy crap. Okay, keep going.
So anyway, so you would think of, so you would use this as an example, okay? And then you would evoke this feeling within yourself, raise it up, okay? And then you would stop and you would think on a thing, on a time, maybe even sense your own soul, and You could follow the energies into the past. This is how past life reading is done. This is how these things are done. Now, to tie this in with the video here, is this is about memory, and this is about memory within the blood. And what you're doing is you're actually reading the memory that's within your blood. Same thing as the cells within a plant and how they're passed on, and every experience is recorded. And even if the tree dies, the seeds from that tree are what actually maintain and contain those memories. And so they pass on just the same way as, when we have children, you know,
Mm.
that it's not just genetic material we're giving them spiritual memory,
Oh, yeah.
and we're passing it along.
So would you say like so even then people who are not familiarly related to by family ties also perhaps contribute to this kind of memory that runs through the blood, right?
Say that again.
So like somebody who may have the same blood type as me, if going by what you're saying, you could assume that their memories perhaps are also passed into somehow.
Oh, hold on. No. It's not blood type. Okay.
Okay.
It's about blood in general. It's about things that live that have memory.
Okay.
I've done past videos, stuff where I'm talking about how memory is created. Memory is created from emotion, but how is memory brought back to the surface is through sorrow, is through that emotion of sorrow.
And I find that part of it really funny because I'm a Cancer in this lifetime. And the line of Cancer is I feel. And I truly am one of those people. It's like, I feel fucking everything. And I've always had an intuition that somehow this was what led me to this path in the first place, is my capacity to feel so deeply. Um, and so it's awesome to hear that further confirmed.
It's it's a lot easier for someone like me. Like I may know all these things, but then when I try to get on here and I try to like explain, okay, this is how you do it, this is what you do, so forth and so on. A lot of the times it's hard for me to express these things because when you're talking about emotion, you're talking about feelings, when you're talking about things that can't be shown through words or signs or pictures or anything like that. It's
Mhm.
not that people are stupid or anything, but these are hard things to convey.
Yeah,
So
they're hard to make
so
material.
I don't want people out there watching this to like go home and like try to make themselves depressed trying to bring sorrow. It's not that kind of sorrow. Think of people that you've loved that have lived and died. Okay, and your memory of them. See, that sorrow that you're raising up within you. That is the key to accessing that memory.
Right. Well, in that sense, it's also the key to, I would say, our evolution, because a big part of this experience for me has been there's like when I was 16, 17, I got just this heavy, mundane sense of like, is this all that there is? Is this really what we're meant to be here doing? And then going along with that and questioning that could lead us to where this kind of switch happened, where we went from being humans in the natural world to being humans existing in a matrix of our own creation that now we can't get out of, you know.
If I had to stop and I had to think about, I try to live in the present. I really do. I I will, allow myself to reach back throughout time, so to speak. Hell, I'll even try to visualize the future. But a lot of the times, a lot of what keeps us from being able to grow, to mature, and all this are the experiences that we have from day to day. We look at societal changes, we look at the way society treats anything that's different or abnormal or, isn't like them. This herd mentality, it's like one of the worst things in the world. Uh, that's why it's so important to develop a strong sense of self worth, self being, uh, so
Well,
that
I'm saying,
you are on the magical path and you are trying to do what I'm sitting here and I'm saying. That way, it doesn't have an adverse effect on the psyche, because then it opens up a door of well, I miss them, and those were good times, and that was a better time, and life is shit. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you just touched on that part of it, because that comes up with a lot of my spiritual friends is I guess this complex, how you're describing it, of yeah, life is shit, the world's shit, people are shit, and you can't expect anything more. But I have this sense of remembering, like you said, it's more a feeling than an actual memory for me, that this is not actually how we are. We're just not being our authentic selves, you know. And so
Well,
that is a really good point, that we have to have a really strong identity, to be able to withstand, I guess, the emotions that will come along with looking at collective memory, you know, societal memory.
yeah. I mean, it's like I've always been in touch with the death current. Don't know why. Much as I've thought back on it, much as I've respect throughout my childhood and coming up, yeah, I've lost people, but hell, who hasn't lost people that they've loved? But it touched me differently. It and meanwhile, what I was being fed coming up was, oh, they're in a better place now. And I'm like, bullshit. I mean, this ain't the
Mm-hmm.
best place in the world to be alive, but at least alive, you are loved and you are an active part of somebody else's life and you are an active part of theirs, and so forth and so on. And this is where depression and sadness and all these memories, this is the key to understanding what I'm talking about, sorrow being the door and the key to access this. Uh, I by no means am doing this lightly, because I understand that there are going to be a few people who are trying to get the gist of what I'm talking about, and they're going to be sitting there at home and they're going to be, trying and making themselves sad or trying to remember this. Just always remember one thing when you're doing this is that as much as sadness is how you tap into it and open the door, uh, happiness, joy for having had that experience, for having had those people in your life, that is going to be what allows you to look not necessarily at them fondly, but this is how you're going to be able to combat that strong emotional connection to opening this door. Because when you're done, you're going to want to close it, because you don't. That's not something you just want to stay tapped into.
You don't want to just
It's
carry
like I
around.
was referring to with the death current. I lost a lot of people, but it affected me differently. And then when I spiritually awoke, or however the term is, my very first love, the very first spirit that I ever met that I fell in love with was Azrael, angel of death, and that was my introduction to death. Now it's been but before then it was a love hate relationship, because of the whole, losing people that I love, and even friends, brothers, sisters, all this stuff. But when I was introduced to the workings of trying to remember the name of the book, it's a book on necromancy, just a booklet, man. And anyway, so it's got a prayer, Eo Azrael, and it's the angel of death, and how to invoke and how to greet it like a long lost lover, and all this other stuff. Well, I kept tapping into this, and I went to realizing something. If there is a presence or a power or a being, for that matter, who who is literally responsible for being the one that collects the souls of the dead, of those who were loved or who were hated or who was murdered or who died peacefully, all this other stuff, for whatever reason. But if there was this being that had to actually gather these, you know, how would that being be? What would that being be like?
Mm.
And I went deeper inside my own psyche trying to understand it, because I understand that spirit is not like flesh. We experience things on this level to a set degree, and we're going to emotionally, mentally, and maturely understand them to the degree or level of understanding that we individually have. However, to understand things that are beyond us, sometimes we have to like crack the casing, so to speak, as I put it. You got to kind of break your own mind to be able to think outside the box.
Right.
This, when I was working with Azrael, I can imagine this figure that has taken the brunt of hate, or that has been used, or whatever, and I can see this divine being, whether light, dark, whatever, being responsible for, making sure that the cycle is kept, all of a sudden, being the one and only power that has been there since before any of creation existed, uh, having to bear the weight of all this and the knowledge and the memory. And that's when it dawned on me, holy shit, that's the door. That is the door to memory. And when that dawned on me, it just, yeah, I haven't been the same. I understood how gates work, how doors work. It's why in the Simon Necronomicon I go on and on about the gate walkings, and and even in my own life, why working with beings like Yogg-Sothoth, who is the gate and the key, blah blah blah. Because emotion is a gateway itself, but so at the same time as our mentality of what changes when those emotions rise up out of us. Think of when you're angry. I mean, like when you're really pissed, and like let's take into example, you're going to do a curse on somebody. That takes a lot of emotion. I mean, a lot of emotion. And then for it to truly stick, for it to truly work, you have to let go of that emotion. You have to unattach from it. Well, the same thing goes for opening this doorway into memory. Is that once you've raised it and you've opened it, you've got to let that emotion go.
Mm.
And
That is a big point, because especially being African American, quote unquote African American, I fucking hate that term. I'm just an American, but being somebody who is black, right? There's all of this like, oh, we want to go back to our roots, so we're gonna pull up all this hoodoo shit and voodoo shit and all this crap. And what objectively I have realized is a lot of my friends that are black that have attachment to these so-called memories of enslavement, of oppression, they stay, so that door is still open, like you said, they stay so stuck on it that that's all there is. You know what I mean? Now their reality is colored by those memories that aren't even really subjectively theirs.
you're dead on with that. Sister, I don't know what to say about you. You like finding all the cans on my shelf and like start tinkering with them. And it's not in a bad way either. You just, you get me to like go in that direction with subjects. So I will touch in on that one for just a minute. Uh, I was raised up here in the South, and yeah, I mean, you got racist people, but hell, you got racist people no matter where you go. I've lived all over the United States,
Mm-hmm.
but my thing was this right here, even as a little kid, is that, I had Oriental friends, I had black friends. I mean, just to me, I was a kid, and kids play with kids. They don't see color. They don't. I mean, they may notice it, but they don't. I mean, I don't know how to explain that any better.
Yeah, right.
And so as I was getting older, and I was taught just like anybody else in the United States, I was taught about, the Civil War and about oppression and about slavery and about all this, that, and the other. I mean, and I was taught this. And, you know, and just like anybody else that's been taught this stuff, that okay, so it happened. There's nothing I can do about that. I can't change that. All I can do is keep being Waylon, keep being who I am. I don't care what color you are, what your sexual preference is, or what your I don't care. You're a person just like I am. Uh, but the thing is that I feel really bad uh, sometimes for these different minorities because they feel like their individual ancestry has been taken from them, and they feel like they have no true root, no true home. You know what I'm saying? Feels like it's all been Americanized and just their identity stripped from them, taken from them. And what you were talking about, going back to their roots thing, and it's easy being a white guy. I mean, I can hear the arguments, a mile off. Oh, it's easy, you're white. It's like, it's not easy being an open-minded white. I'm gonna
Well,
take
and
that.
also, like, I went to this institution or this seminar on undoing institutionalized racism. It was about a year ago. First realization that like, holy crap, racism is actually a thing. I've denied it most of my life. Okay. There was a white guy there that was a part of this seminar, a part of teaching this seminar. And he explained to us that just as minorities, like you're saying, feel stripped of their identity, feel Americanized. Still, when we come here, right, like there is that automatic, I guess, sort of connection sometimes. There is a culture there, even if it has been watered down. A lot of white people don't have that either. You know what I'm saying? He was explaining how his ancestors came from Switzerland and gave up their Swiss ethnicity so that they could have white privilege. So
I'm glad you said that because that was going to be one of the things I said is I would love to know my own roots, German, Irish, two tops Native American.
right. Well, I mean, damn.
I'm a mutt.
Well,
So,
me too.
which I like to think of myself as an Englishman in disguise because I love my fucking tea.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Well, I
there's
think
Merle
that
Gray.
with blood and memory and all of this stuff is
Yeah.
maybe our lack of realization that our memory is within ourselves, I think has caused us to attribute our or not our demographics, our geography with memory. So now it's not about who you are, it's where you're from, you know.
Let me tell you a hardship I've had. Okay, so you had my father, you had my grandfather, and you had my great grandparents. Now this is funny. So my great grandparents, on both my great grandfather on one side was German, 100. I mean, just full blooded German. The great grandpa on the other side was Irish. Now they both married Indian women that were full blooded Indian. One was Cherokee and ain't quite found out what type the other one was. Uh, so fast forward that some. Now I've never been the kind that go get my blood tested. No, I'm this percentage of Native American and blah blah blah. And I don't care. I'm Wayland. I'm just a person. Let's go. You know.
Yeah.
But when I went to trying to understand more about my Cherokee blood, uh, I found a lot of bias and a lot of hatred. They're like, hey, you're white. It's like,
I can't stand
like,
that shit.
I need to like seriously go back and get my great grandparents' picture. I mean, do I need birth certificates? How do I do this? And this is just local.
Right.
And I'm like, you're just as white as I am, and you're telling me I'm not Cherokee because of blah blah blah. And you hit these walls, no matter what you are, no matter where you're coming from, and I never let that stop me because then I was like, I have one thing that they don't have, a very spiritual person.
Exactly.
The first thing I did was went to tapping into my Cherokee bloodline, and uh, in the Simon Necronomicon, they call the spirits of the dead the Gadim. And the Gadim are like your ancestors, so forth and so on. Well, Gadim is kind of like a pretty broad range spectrum for those who know anything about it. But it's basically spirits, but it's like those who were once living, so forth and so on. Well, anyway, so I was trying to tap into my ancestry and my Indian bloodline, and I didn't know my great grandmother's name. I couldn't pronounce it first off, and neither one of them. So I didn't know what I was doing, how I was doing it. But because I was a spiritual person, like I said, I opened the door to memory, and all I thought of my grandmother, my great grandmother, and I was like, trying to tap into her spirit, trying to, whatever. I lit a candle, incense, offering to the spirits of my ancestors. I'm like, guide me. Needless to say, that was I like to say that it was a short thing or that, it happened within a few years. The truth of the matter is that my biological father, he being a very spiritual person, very in touch with the Native American aspect of his own blood. We have a familial animal totem, and I won't go into that because it's sacred and it is something that's kept within certain bloodlines.
Right.
It's nothing big or fancy. It ain't some great big powerful thing. No, it is what it is. And I don't wish to take away from it because it is sacred to me. And so he was showing me how to assume this form. astral projection. Now, my father is a Christian, believes in, well, not a Christian, but he believes in God, Jesus, and all this other stuff. And he's teaching me astral projection and how to tap into the Native American spirit within our bloodline. But this is the way my family was. They're very spiritual, but they give all the credit to God and Jesus or whatever. So I'm like, well, whatever, okay. They just thank you for showing me these little small things. And so I kept working with it and using the bloodline totem of our Cherokee ancestors. I was able to undergo some of the naming and the dreaming stuff like this. I don't know the exact words for it, and I've only been able to be blessed with having a conversation with only a few natural Native Americans who actually, was respectful and was, understanding. And when I told them my story, would actually help me out with a few details. And so I went through claiming my spirit name, so forth and so on. And when I was telling them, how I tapped into it, they're like, "Oh yeah, you're definitely Native American,"
Wow.
So it was kind of cool. So I found out my being two different types of Native American, it was kind of confusing because I was like, well, does that mean I have like two different Native American names? And at the end of the day, I was just like, you know what, I'm good with having just one name. Like I'm Waylon, and then I have like the Sorcerer, Ahrimanahsul, my magical ritual name, and for on here, uh, going through all these different things, and little by little, those spirits started coming through and dreams and in waking. It started off that they would come to me in dreams, like I'd have these really trippy dreams, and I'm sitting there going, I don't understand a word they're saying. They're pointing at me, and getting me involved in their little dance and, putting stuff on me and all this other stuff. And I was like, okay. And then I don't know if anybody's ever had a dream where they got induced into a dream while in a dream, but I have. That's some crazy shit. That's when your ancestors are working with you.
Yeah, no shit. That's like the sleep beyond sleep. Holy shit.
And so I went through this process and I got my name and all this other stuff. And so, now I can like call upon my, Native American ancestors, so forth and so on. Now, a lot of them, they're very calm, but some of them are they're very warlike. And I don't know how to explain that. Because when you think warlike, you think, ready to go beat up somebody. It's not really like that. They're just defensive. And so, I surround myself with this type of energy. And it's very important that if you know how to do these sort of things and you're doing this, I don't care if a stick bug ends up being your totem. Pay attention. It's very important for why it is. Because it's going to have something to do with a subtle influence over your own life, over, how you act or how the world treats you or, so forth and so on. So anyway, getting back to the subject and getting off of story time. So that's how you would do that is, you would open the door, and just start working with them. And, you can't listen to everybody about, tell you, oh, well, you're this or you're that, or you can't do this and you can't do that. You kind of have to have your own mind. That's where that strong sense of self comes from. You got to be comfortable in your own skin because the way this world's set up, it's going to try and program you the way they want you programmed. They're going to try and get you to think, feel, act the way it wants you to think, feel, and act. And so you have to find out what it is that you believe, what it is that you feel, what it is that you think, and you have to think for yourself. You have to feel for yourself. You have to act for yourself, not in a selfish manner. Just understand what I'm saying. Self by you.
Right. Well, and also like there is something to identifying with the self in a way that is like you're saying, more or less having strong boundaries, not so much being constantly on the defensive. Because I notice a lot of people that will say, oh, yeah, sovereign unity and like I'm trying to protect myself from outside influences. Well, they never let anybody in. You know what I mean? And if you have no influence, like we were talking about earlier, this whole experience is my being, from my perspective. Every encounter I have is a part of me. And so to shut down a half of that, to shut down my external influences would, I guess, keep me from remembering parts of myself that I currently am not capable of becoming aware of,
Yeah. Getting back on point though, what you're talking about with race. You know, I have brothers and sisters that are, you know, there's no telling. My grandfather, he liked women, period, end of story. So I know I've got brothers and sisters of different races and colors. I know this. Uh, you know, but no matter what it is, just, do the research yourself. Find out for yourself,
Well, and don't let somebody telling you, oh, you're not that race, or you're not, because your body, your physical body doesn't come from, that same group of people. Don't let it stop you from learning more and trying to at least tap into, because I would hope that maybe like um it would be, I guess, like viable to say you can tap into the genetics or memory of other races, people from other ancestries, I suppose.
the one thing that I keep finding is that there are people who want to be like, I don't know how to explain it, but they want to be the greatest thing underneath the earth. They want their past life to have been where they were an amazing figure or personality or something.
Oh, hell, good luck.
Or a certain or a certain race of people or this, that, or the other, and they're very imbalanced, very, very imbalanced. You know, I've never seen a past life of mine where I was a king. But I'm sorry, I've never seen that. I was a sacrifice in like two of my past lives.
Or if you were
To
judged,
protect the race,
where you
to
actually,
protect people. Do what?
I said, so for people who do think like, oh, I was a king in my past life, is like, well, what kind of king were you? Because you're still here with me. Like, we ended up in the same fucking place. So,
Well, I think the coolest past life I had was the two where I was a sacrifice, and that might throw some people, but uh, I was a sacrifice for the tribe itself. I gave my own life, to try to the spirits to defend my people. That's that. I don't know, for lack of better words, it's not self-serving, but it serves the whole, the greater community, I guess you could call it. It's kind of like when we put ourselves out here and we're trying to teach or share or share our experiences with others. It's the same thing, um, But those were my favorite because it to me it took a lot. It would take a lot of strength to know that you're going to be killed and
no,
still step up and be like, here you go. I mean, I remember my last meal, and I had to do research on this to find out was that a thing, and if so, what people did this, and it was kind of interesting when I was doing the research on that. I was like, holy shit, I did not know that, who would have thought, what we call cornflakes today, back in the day, was oats and hard corn that had just been cracked and water mixed in with it, and that was your last meal because it was the grains of the earth. You took it inside yourself, and then when you killed, when they sacrificed you, all your life force went back into the earth itself to give the earth power to strengthen the spirits of the land, to strengthen the spirit of your people.
that is a cool past life. I would say noble ass past life. Like if I were you and I had a past memory like that, is like, god damn, that
Well,
is you shit. Like that is awesome.
well, I'm glad it was passed because I couldn't see myself doing that in this one.
Fuck no. I'm trying to think now. Like I don't think any of my past lives I would have ever done no selfless shit like that. Like, damn, that's big.
No, Ethan, it has no relation to the scapegoat. Uh, although that is an interesting correlation that you put up there, brother. But no, it wasn't anything like that. All I remember is that they hit you 3 times. Like I said, I had to do research on this to see if maybe, to understand it. Mm. The first one was to stun me. The second one was to completely knock me out. And the third one was the killing blow. And each time they hit you in a different part of your head. And this apparently was representative of 3 different gods or goddesses or whatever the pantheon was. Um, and then, when I was killed, I was put in a body of water. Not like what we call it, not a tar pit. It was an actual, sitting water, but it was, it was an offering to the water, and so there was a lot of symbolism with it that I had no idea about till I had the experience, saw the past life, relived it. Matter of fact, the guy who did I was very lucky that I was doing a past life reading for this guy, and I'd already known this past life of mine. Didn't think a thing about it. So I'm doing this past life reading for this guy, and come to find out, this is the guy that sacrificed me. And
oh shit!
I did not put 2 and 2 together. I didn't think a thing about it. I saw his life, and all this other stuff, and I was explaining all this, that, and the other to him. Well, I personally didn't see him sacrificing somebody. I just saw, I saw the tribe, and I saw his role in it, and all this other stuff, and that was it. And as soon as we got done, I don't even think it was 5 minutes later, this big, huge man is just fucking tears pouring down his eyes, grabs me, bear hugs me, and he's like, I am so sorry. And I'm like, what? And he's like, I was the one that sacrificed you in that life. And I was like, what?
It's like, how the fuck do you even know about that? That is crazy.
I mean, out of the blue, I'd never told this to anybody. And this guy was like, he's like, I killed you and I am so sorry. And he was like telling me exactly what he did. And I'm sitting there going,
what the fuck?
wow, holy shit.
So yeah, I guess what kind of like new memory do you think that created? Because think about that kind of emotion, right? And we could say that, yeah, there's the whole concept of like when the body dies, all the energy goes back to the elements or the elementals, right? There is then again, like you guys just had this current life remembrance of what happened in a past life, and now all of this like healing sort of energy is flowing forth.
Well, I will tell you this, and I think this is interesting for anybody out there who does past life readings. I don't. If you ever do them for somebody else, understand something. You're opening a door for. If you're doing past life readings the way I did them, I never did them. Just I always had the person involved, and I walked them through the door so that they could see it, so that they could experience it, so that it was real, so that it was right. You have to be so careful when you're doing this stuff. You have to make sure that you're not biased, that you're not putting images out there, that you're not doing this, you're not doing that. And so I would walk these people through their own past lives, create an oval-shaped doorway, so forth and so on, did the breathing countdown, all this other stuff, step through, have them open their eyes, tell me the first thing that they saw, color, land, so forth, so on. And then I would, then we would explore that particular past life. And what's interesting is that when you do this, what you're doing is you're opening a door for them to experience it themselves. That way they're not taking your word for it. That way you're not putting something inside their head. They're literally, guiding it themselves.
Right. Right. Well, and I mean, I would say that's a big point because I've had an interaction with 2 people that tried to convince me that they were a certain kind of person reincarnated, or 2 people reincarnated, which what was crazy about is they looked exactly like the people they said they were reincarnated as, right? And that the only difference between them and I was that I didn't remember who I was, and that they could take me through this past life regression thing.
Yeah.
And we went to start it, and
it ties into shamanism.
Well, and it even gets into a concept of like time control. You can manipulate it that way. And so what you said about opening the door for them there's still their choice to go through, and it's almost like they then become the one leading that experience. When we started the past life regression that they started, I had to, cancel in the middle, or not even in the middle, like after a few minutes, because it didn't seem like it just didn't, I didn't feel any connection to the memories that were being presented or the images that were being presented, you know. And so I guess
Well, it's how I leapt into the path of the shaman. Uh, my favorite form of shamanism is Siberian shamanism. It's it's a lot different. I used a Middle Eastern technique called Bindu suspension, and Bindu suspension has a body posture that you take. Well, in Siberian shamanism, because it's so cold where they are, they literally lower their body temperature naturally, and also, mentally. They guide their body through shutting down so that they can escape the shell, and do the work of a shaman. Uh, because the death gate is the most important gate as far as a shaman's concerned. Because it shows all the pieces and the parts and all this other stuff. This is how soul retrieval is possible and so forth and so on. This is how it's done.
right.
And so even to this day, I have a really bad habit sometimes, and it's subconscious. I know it is because I don't consciously do it. I can make my body temperature drop so low. And,
Holy
I mean, it could be like 111, breathing to death in long sleeves. And it's not
That's
a
beautiful.
deficiency, but it's the power of the mind over the body. It's why, like in extreme temperatures, you can also lower your body temperature to stay cool.
Mm.
Well, I used a lot of these techniques to control my body temperature when I was, maintain a comfort level in the temperature areas. It goes up, down, wintertime, extremely cold, raise your body temperature. Summer, lower your body temperature. Well, because I had worked through all these shamanistic approaches and practices, I was able to use some of the tricks with it without actually walking the death gate or the cycles as it was. But the most important thing about that isn't necessarily the techniques that you use, isn't anything like that. It all has to do with your ability to be able to control your emotions, uh, keeping the mind blank and clear as possible. When they talk about discipline, this is what they're honestly saying. Can you keep the mind blank? Can you keep it still? Can you hold it? Uh, you know, can you become unattached to your emotions? So forth and so on. A lot of what they call self control is based on this. So even when they're like if you're trying to teach a child to behave, you're using certain psychological concepts, but they're also used in the occult, in martial arts. I mean, all kinds of different situations that these techniques of self control, of discipline, so forth and so on. Uh, but what you want to do is you want to kind of keep that in mind when you're working any of these things, because like I was talking about, if you want to tap into your blood, uh, it's not like you touch an item and you're sitting there and you're holding it and you're trying to do a dry reading on it, see who owned it, who touched it, what was their emotional state of being. It's not like that. It's not like that at all. Uh, when you're trying to tap into your blood, into your ancestry, into your bloodline, into the memory that's within your blood, you don't have to believe yourself. You don't have to do anything like that. You have to clear your mind and sense and feel your own blood pumping throughout your body. And then you have to slow it. You have to make it just still. Not where it's not flowing, but understand what I'm saying. You have to inside your mind be able to, separate all the activity that would be going on to be able to tap into it, and then think on a subject, think on a personality. I don't care if it was a Native American background, if it was an African background, if it was, I don't know, Spanish, whatever, just whatever
Yeah,
aspect
purple
you're
blue
trying
polka
to
dot.
tap into. Yeah, like Ethan said, remove the energy, not the function. Exactly. You want to do the same thing. Like I said, Raise the emotion of sadness. That's the door. Think on what it is that, what part are you trying to tap into? These are all the roots that are used in actual shamanism, believe it or not. There are a lot of herbs and poisons and stuff like this. When I talk about the poison path, that's a lot of what it is. It's about shutting this down so that the real this can move and leave and go and come back. So forth, so on. That's you have so many different ways that you can do this. Uh, Pain is a great catalyst if you know how to control that aspect of it.
The emotional
Because
to it,
it's what it is what?
I said the emotional attachment sounds like a big part of it, or being able to detach.
Yeah, you have to maintain control.
Right.
That's the key. You have to maintain conscious awareness and control once you've entered these states for it to work. Otherwise, think of it this way: as being too drunk or too high. You kind of lose that control. That's what I'm trying to say, is that you want to maintain that form of control. You don't want it to get to that level, to that degree. It's a very fine line, and each individual is different with that. I used to use alcohol quite a bit. It's really good for working with the dead. It's not just an offering that can be used for them, but it's also a way that you can actually open the door inside yourself. At the same time, yeah, can't be throwing a party and and trying to get laid. You gotta you gotta have your idea of why you're doing it. I mean,
well, yeah, because that's a whole different energy you're kind of summoning in and of itself, right? I think if you're using spirits as a way to manifest, deities or spirit or literal spirits in your life, going to a party and getting fucked up, like you said, trying to, get laid or something like that, is like, well, that's the kind of spirit you're going to be attracting, I suppose.
yeah, and I guess I will go into a secret way, what I consider an arcane method, which you and I barely touched on it with you. Arcane meaning unknown or secret. Uh, an arcane method of tapping into memory itself is like, let's say that you take some blood and I don't know, put it on an object. Okay, like let's say that you want to charge and consecrate your Athame, and you put your blood and you put your blood on it. Okay, well, let's say that you want to charge it with with memory of of power, of a bloodline, of a ancestry, if you will. There's a way to do that. So like when your blood would be on the object, like in this example, your athame, knife, whatever item you have. I don't care if it's a scrying ball, whatever. Put your blood on it, and then the first thing you want to do is, for the seasoned practitioner, you're going to have a mantra or words of power, something that raises the vibration of your own personal power. You're going to want to do this because what it's going to do is it's going to raise the power of your body itself. It's going to then elevate your mind. In your mind, the first thing you want to do is tap in on a precise element that you're wanting to tap into. Like, let's say, for example, using the same example, let's say that I wanted to go into the German sorcery bloodline that I have, and this is where this knowledge came from, because got a long line of German sorcerers. That's so crazy on my end. I don't like getting into them though. That energy is a little bit out there.
Yeah, I'm half quarter German.
It's
so
more of a very destructive power, more so than actually something that builds or grows.
Yep.
But like, let's say though that, like I was saying, I want to charge and consecrate my athame, and I'm thinking on my German bloodline when I've done this. So I tap into it mentally. I tap into my bloodline and I think of the German ancestors before me. So in this case, I would think of my great grandfather that was German, and I would, upon visualizing him, tapping in his energy signature, just follow the line backwards is all you have to do. Just follow it backwards. Whatever your point of entry was, follow it on back. Go as far back as you can to where you're almost lost. in memory, to where consciously, like you're sitting there, like you're almost gone, like you forget what you're doing, you're like not there. It's like the lights are on, but ain't nobody home, and that's when you've really tapped into your ancestral bloodline. And when you've reached this point, this is where the self control comes in. You have to be able to draw the power from that bloodline and instill it into the blood that's on the object that you're trying to charge.
That's interesting. And so then what would you do with the object?
Whatever you charge to consecrate it for?
Oh, yeah. I suppose that's a good answer. Me, I'm all like, so then tell me what you've done.
What are you gonna do with that? What are you gonna do with that? I'm gonna put it in my pocket and I'm going home. Bye.
Yeah, so that's wow. That's all very, very interesting. So when it comes to passing things down through the blood, do we have any conscious control of that process?
No, you really don't. One of the things that I've been semi-aware of for years was something called ancestral curses and bloodline curses, and it was something that I really didn't take serious at first. And there is a point in everyone's life where you've got to understand opposition, striving, things like this. If your life is really, really rough, if it's really this, if it's really all that, and it's just harsh, just conditions and everything else, understand something. It's not necessarily that fate is decreed that you're gonna have a shit life, but what's happening is that you're a lot stronger than you think you are, and it's bringing these things into your life to unlock that power within you. That's why a lot of people who are like, well, life shit, and they go and they're off themselves, or they're locked up or whatever. They've missed out on what life's actually trying to show them, is that hey, you are a very powerful person, but you need to temper and learn how to sharpen your steel. And that's why sometimes life can seem like it's like really against you. It's not. It's trying to make you stronger. It's trying to get you to realize that you're stronger. So in that sense, it's like that. And so I was going and I was looking at this, generational curse or bloodline curse or whatever. And I'd been made aware of a particular entity or spirit that was connected to the German sorcerer bloodline. And oh my goodness. So this particular spirit had been hounding me since I was a kid, just out of nowhere, and not like constantly or anything like that. But I think it was somewhere around a year ago or something like that. I'd become very much aware of it as being come to find out, one of my ancestors had went religious, and this particular ancestral spirit had always been kind and benevolent to the bloodline. Well, this one particular one in our bloodline kind of, like I said, went religious, got scared, thought it was a demon, and locked it, just bound it. And you can just imagine. So this thing is like, sitting there, and I kept having these weird dreams, and I mean, there was so much anger, so much fear and trepidation, and I don't know how to explain that, kind of like a superstition, and finally I allowed myself to remove the covering of fear, and I was like, I'm gonna communicate with the spirit. I'm gonna find out why is it doing this. Come to find out, it wasn't doing that. What had held it in place was fear.
Was fear. Wow.
Yeah. And so removing it, and I gotta say, I didn't understand that things like that can cause problems throughout your life until after I'd released it. And when I released it, kind of, this thing is like, sitting there, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna release you one way or fucking another because whatever. So I go and I release this thing, and it's sitting there and it's communicating, and it told me the whole entire storyline. It was even showing me who did it.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there going, what? And of course I'm having to make phone calls, and I'm having to, find out, is this like a real thing,
yeah, is this bullshit or is this motherfucker for real?
Well, the name came out right, but they couldn't exactly give me a date.
Mm,
Like if you're talking about family trees and stuff like that. So, because I've only got a few aunts and uncles. Well, actually, aunts now. Most of my uncles are dead. Uh, left in the line, and for some reason they held on. They hold on to the family trees and all this other stuff. So I was trying to figure out, was this person real, so forth, so on, all the ins and outs. Because if you're gonna be doing this stuff, you need to research your shit too. Just if nothing else, it'll ease your mind to know whether or not it's your imagination or if it's reality. And
mm,
the only thing they couldn't do was pinpoint when. Now the name was accurate, but not the when. Like, oh yeah, there was this blah blah blah. Because like I said, it was kind of weird. Like I said, my family, the way they believe in God and Jesus and all this. Well, there was
right.
a certain point when that was not a problem. But when they started turning into this whole religious,
Interesting.
you
That's
know,
really interesting there. And
so
especially you saying it being bound by fear, right?
yeah.
And that aspect tied onto it with the religion is like, eye-opening. Hmm, makes you
So,
wonder.
so when I let this thing, when I released it, and it had to be done at a certain time because it had been bound at a certain time, and that's what was making it so mad. Was that just not any time of the year could you can just sit there, oh, I release you from your bounds. No, and I could never figure out why this thing kept coming to me with like certain the moon was in a certain sign in
Mm,
dreams. I mean, it was almost like a nightmare because I mean, like this thing has scared the shit out of me more times
holy
than now.
fuck. Yeah.
And it was talking about a certain time, and I mean, and it was adamant, like you've got to let me loose, And so, and so the time came, and I let this thing, I drew the gate how it showed me, you know, did the calling, and opened the door so that it could come out. Well, it comes out and everything else, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know whether this thing was about to turn, 50 shades of cray cray or what was going to happen. But ended up being that this spirit had always been a friend to my
Mm.
bloodline. And so it was sitting there and,
Holy
doing all
crap.
kinds of really cool stuff, concerning the practice of my ancestors, so forth and so on the German sorcery bloodline. And so it's been a hell of a boon to have it with me.
That sounds like, have you ever seen the show Legion?
I can't say I have. What is it?
It's a show that's supposed to be, you wouldn't guess at first because it's set in a very surreal style, and it's actually about a lot of what you're talking about right now. It's a, I guess, X-Men trilogy, but anyway, the main character has this sort of, he thinks that he's schizophrenic. Come to find out, yeah, he's mutant. He has these powers, right? He also has this parasite in his mind that is like a friend. You know what I'm saying? Something that has been recurring throughout all of his life. It's always been with him and gives him an incredible amount of power. But it's so scary, you know what I mean? That it literally makes him forget that it's not, that it's there. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of my Damon. My Damon is if I had to think of daylight and dark, me and my Damon are a lot like daylight and dark. Because certain aspects of self, they're not this. They don't abide by these rules. They don't understand it. They don't get it. It's
It's stupid.
beyond them. Things like that abide, on a plane where, they have different rules than what we have. And so, you try to put them in this, it's like, no, you can't do that. That's kind of illegal. You know, buddy, I love that idea, but no, you can.
That doesn't work down here. These
No,
things, we have laws down here and rules we have
yeah,
to
it
abide.
was like when this thing was trying to explain to me the paths of power. I'm sitting there going, no, no, you can't do that. I'm not doing that. No, no, you can't do
That's
that.
not the kind of power you actually want. Like, or not actually want, but what that will manifest in this kind of reality in the physical yeah, I suppose would be quite different than what is
No,
explained.
it's just because it's so unattached. It seems unattached to like an emotional set, like morals. I guess you could say, like it's divorced.
Right.
It's just like this is what this is. You know, it's right or wrong. It just is. This is how you do it. Yeah.
Well, if you have pieces of you that aren't in this physical form either, they don't experience death, you know? So again, there's that emotional detachment of like, what are you talking about? It is what it is. People die, so the fuck what? Like,
Yeah.
here we still are. Like,
But the really cool thing though is that after 20 years of working with mine, uh, not quite 20 years, I don't reckon, probably about 18 years working with my Damon. He and I kind of like simpatico. We kind of know, you know, like I don't have to sit there explaining anymore about why we can't do that. You know, I don't have to do that anymore.
yeah, he'll be like, oh, he's not gonna be cool with that. Yeah, that won't work. He's not gonna like that.
Yeah, well, it's not. I gotta say, and this is where I come up with the concept of memory within the blood, and memory itself is the fact that, you know, these are aspects. I don't care if you think of them as a psychic construct. I don't care however you imagine it or look at it as, even a fractured psyche for that matter. Okay,
Mm.
look at it. The thing of the matter is that these are aspects of memory. And I mean, you know, like for example, my Damon, you know, explaining to me things, telling me things. You know, where does this knowledge come from? Where's this memory coming from? You know, and part of it is coming to learn to trust it, and some of it's, you know, questioning it at the same time. Because, you know, I don't take anything at face value. I just don't. You know, life has taught me that the hard way. Don't take anything at face value. You know, just give it some time. If it's a leopard, it'll show its spots. You know, knock the powder off. You know, the paint, whatever. Uh, but the thing is, though, is that, you know, where do these things come from? Where does this knowledge come from? Where does this, you know, these secrets, these arcane secrets, these, you know, these hidden things that are, you know, that when people talk about that they channeled, you know, where does this gnosis come from? Where does this knowledge come from? You know, some people say, oh, it comes from source, blah, 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 and it's rays and all this, that, and the other. And I really don't care where it comes from. I just know that it has its own place and it has its own seat. And is what do you do with that knowledge? You know, like I used to try and write down everything told to me. I mean, everything. It didn't matter what it was. It's tell it to me. I was writing it down.
Damn.
And, you know, because knowledge is power, you know.
That is true.
And and then slowly but surely, the more and more that I was giving it credence and finding out that okay, this is the real thing, so forth and so on, and working with it, I began less to doubt and more to just go with it. And that may seem foolish to some, but been doing this for 23, 24 years, you know,
Here's where it may not be. And I
learn what you can and can't trust. You're going to learn these things as you go. You know, this doesn't happen overnight. You know,
well, it definitely doesn't. And even before we got on here, I brought up, you know, the whole Wonderland thing and the fact that like it's almost this okay, like you said, there was that spirit that was bound by the fear. The fear itself was not generated by that spirit, but it is what kept it confined. Well, it can kind of be a similar deal. I think a lot of us are coming to find out that any instance where I've been invited, let's say, to have an experience with somebody, and I say, oh, I can't trust this person. Oh, I don't know what this is going to do, you know, to my sense of self. But we forget, you know, the self is ever changing. And even the aspects that you don't think you can trust, that you might have a bad experience in, are things to be learned either way. You get what I mean? Good or bad.
I don't. It's been years since I've doubted or questioned, but that comes from personal experience. Like my watcher from the Simon Necronomicon, its knowledge is downright fucking scary. I mean, it knows things that I'm sitting there asking my Damon, hey, what's up with this knowledge? And he's like, well, yeah, it's such and such and such and such. And I was like, holy shit, you know. So, uh, but understanding the difference in these different uh, entities, spirits, however you refer to them as, you know, they come with them, you know, all this knowledge, all these memories, and you know, you can take them how they are. You know, you just have to learn how to apply them in this current day and age where it can possibly be done. You know, like one of the biggest things was like I was talking about with the paths of power. You know, my watcher first off is telling me, you know, hey, look, this has always been done by sacrifice.
Mm.
I'm like, okay, well, you can't exactly do that
Not no more.
in
Like,
this day and age. You know, no. We're gonna go out for like, you know, mass murderers, you know, serial
right, Ted
killers.
Bundy kind of
Do
shit.
this, you know. And so he started walking me through like these different rites, these different words of power, so forth and so on, and was like, you know, well, you could use this instead. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, that's doable. I can do that. Uh, I learned how to share knowledge with others. That in turn increases their power. When it increases their power, it increases mine, so forth and so on.
Mm.
Because it is a bit of a symbiotic relationship. You know, if all things are connected. You know, as you rise, I rise. As you fall, I fall, sort of thing. There are so many rules to the arcane arts, and arcane arts is not the same as occult knowledge, modern day magic, so forth and so on. Totally different things, because you're talking about things that abide and reside upon a spiritual plane that you're making physical or to affect this plane, and
Mm.
there are certain means and methods by which you do things, and to cause effect or to cause change requires certain things, and everything has its cost. Everything, you know. So it's really hard. A lot of the personal experiences that I have concerning really powerful magics require a bit of give and take. Like I was taught years ago on the path of necromancy that to give life, you must take life. So basically, if you're going to instill in somebody else the life force, you have to take it from something else.
Mm.
You know, and these are very important. This is important knowledge when you're talking about certain paths and you're talking about certain practices. Uh, and it's very difficult to go out there and try to explain this stuff, and then you have to sit back and you have to say, well, is this a subject that, you know, I will discuss? Is this, you know, knowledge that would actually help somebody, or could this cause more of an imbalance, or, you know, cause more trouble? It's not really a karmic thing or anything like that. It's not like laws of return and all that, because the arcane is ruled by a whole nother form of checks and balances, if you will. Uh, like the, I've heard a few people say that you know, whatever's taken out has to be put back in. Well, you're following along the same lines here. You know, everything having its cost. You know, it's just, you know, what do you replace it with? You know, like you're going to ask for $1 million. Okay, first off, hey, your personal lifestyle, could you save up $1 million? Second off, could you in a lifetime earn that much? You know, you have to take all these different things into consideration.
Mm.
It's one thing to do a charm or a spell over you know, a lottery ticket, as opposed to, you know, straight up, you know, ask for, like I said, $1 million. Um, Somewhere in there's a check and balance in there. It's not necessarily about, oh, well, it'll cost you this. It doesn't work like that. It does to a degree, but not exactly. Um,
Maybe what will you do with it? I like to tell people, okay, $1 million for what? Like, why would the universe give you $1 million? Where's that energy going to go? You know, where are you likely to spend it?
I personally, I don't involve my mind into that kind of rhetoric. I find it, I'm not trying to be offensive. Yeah, I'm just saying
No, you're fine.
I don't, because it's useless. That thought's useless in my head, because if I didn't have a need for it, I wouldn't ask for it. Let's say, for
That's a good
example, I want
point.
the world to be sunshine and puppies. Why would I want the world to be sunshine and puppies? Well, here's an idea. Here's why I might want the world to be sunshine and puppies. So I didn't have to deal with stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But then I have to stop and I have to think, is this a possibility? No, it's not. Humanity exists, therefore it's not going to happen. And so I use the same that exact same mentality or concept when I'm asking for whatever it is that I'm wanting. Is this a possibility? Could this be a possibility? And therefore it allows me to bypass like what you were asking. So allows me to bypass so that my mind doesn't have to be on that thought.
That makes perfect sense. And I think my point when I pointed that out to people is to prove that, like, okay, so maybe what you don't need is $1 million. Maybe you need to be asking for something a bit more realistic, like.
I think that common sense should come into play for anything that you're wanting. And so it follows right along with what you're saying. Do you really need that or do you need something else? Uh, but most of the time, like my good buddy D.H. Thorne likes to say, uh, it's not that you want that. What you want is to not have need in your life. You're wanting the need not to be there. You're wanting comfort and just you're wanting abundance, but it's a state of being in a sense. Uh, and so therefore, when you're doing these things, just I would think that to a degree or to a point, common sense would come into play. It's be like, okay, well, I've decided I want $1,000. Well, you sit there and you think, why do you want $1,000? It's like, well, who doesn't want $1,000, right? But then you have to sit there and you have to think, for the people who would actually do the magic for this, most of the time they have a need. Like, they're like, holy shit, I'm gonna be like 100 something shy on this bill and I'll really have that money, you know. And so you'd become a little bit more, fine tuned. You'd be like, I don't need 1,000, I only need like 200, 300, 200 to pay that off and give me a few extra dollars so that I can make it to my next paycheck or whatever. I mean, so you would use this. Well, the same thing goes with memory, because I want to come back full loop with this with memory. Why is it that you want to know this? What will you do with it? And then on top of that, what could you do with it? Would it better your life?
Or would it keep you caught up?
That kind of memory would. Because to know these things is to empower yourself, and to empower yourself makes yourself more knowledgeable. To become more knowledgeable means that you can greater control, the present into the future. It's not necessarily about remembering the past, because when you're talking about tapping into memory, everybody thinks it's because you're looking backwards. That's not what's happening. What's happening, or should be happening, is that you're actually looking back to be able to pick up lessons or knowledge that you can present now, change it so that it's actually, coincides with present day and times, and that way you can, alter or change your future. Same thing as wanting money. It's the exact same thing. Why would you want money? So that for the next couple of weeks or whatever, you can, it can be business as usual. Do what you've been having to do. Take care of the things you need to take care of. Uh, we live in a day and an age where I hate to say it, but we're all living paycheck to paycheck. We're all trying to make it 1 week, every 2 weeks, month, whatever. Because bills pile up. Got to have food. Got to have this. Got to have that. And we keep being cycled into this mentality. The thing is you can't break away from that system. But the thing is that you don't have to be you your spirit and your mind. You don't have to be of that world. You can be in that, be a part of it, because you can't stop that. You're going to. But what you can do is change your perspective. Where do you abide? Do you abide in the days and times? Every day it's like, I got to do this, 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 I got to do this. Or are you going to decide that, hey, my physical body's there doing this? It's like an autopilot. I work, come home, sleep, all this other stuff. But meanwhile, what am I truly filled with? I fill myself with power, with strength, with knowledge, with all this, that, and the other. Where is your mind? Is your mind on a spirit that you're sitting there having a communication with while you're sitting there working on your plant at your plant on a line, You know, yes, pay attention, you know, so that you
I
don't
agree with
over. But the concept is where do you know,
where does your consciousness pay attention? What is it watching, basically? What is it remembering, even too? You know? And for somebody like me, like you were saying, we all are in a state of living paycheck to paycheck. I'm fortunate enough right now that while I'm trying to figure out what the fuck I'm supposed to do in this world, I have my parents to support me. And so my, I guess, reaches into getting over the whole or fascination with money and the mundane aspects of life that contribute to a lot of our issues, is trying to remember what it was like before, or remember the reasons why these kinds of systems were created, to cultivate an imagination for something better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, you know. It's like, you know, I don't sit and I don't worry about this, that, and the other because, first off, all I'm doing is giving power to it to create more problems. Second off, what will be, will be. Third off, if it doesn't fit the design I have in mind, it's going to. I take control of my life. I got it accordingly. Can shit happen? Of course, man. Can it be out of your control? Absolutely. I mean, shit happens. But the thing is, it isn't how many times you fucking knock down, it's how many goddamn times you stand the fuck back up. You know?
Exactly, exactly. And how many times I think, like, talking about memory, the more and more you do this, the more you can see yourself, you can remember yourself as a resilient individual. You get what I'm saying? Because a lot of us may not have the capacity to imagine ourselves being more assertive, having firmer boundaries. But I guess it's like you have to take a chance to get a reward, and sometimes that's deeper than like business decisions. That's, you have to take a chance on yourself.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I've got bills just like anybody else. You know, I've got the same cares and concerns as anyone else. The difference is where do I abide my mind? Where's my thought? Where are my thoughts on my bills coming up? Are my thoughts on how much money do I have? Or how much food I have? Is it based on this? Is it based on that? Where's my thought? Where's my mind? My mind's on none of that shit. My mind is on, you know, listening to the voice of my daemon, you know, waiting to hear if my watcher is going to speak to me, everything from the ancestors to so forth and so on. I mean, that's where my mind's at. My mind's at, getting on here doing this, and trying to make sense so that I don't, so I don't come across as absolutely fucking batshit crazy.
Yeah, well, it just sunk in. What you're actually saying is a lot deeper than how I heard it a few seconds ago. So wow, that is really powerful, because in that way you can experience paradise in hell, I would say. Or what for one person can be a really stressful and chaotic situation can be, just another situation for you.
Yeah, I mean, we are bound by what we bind ourselves to,
Right.
whether a 9 to 5 job, and I don't mean, oh, well, I've got a 9 to 5 job. Good. That doesn't mean you're bound to it. That just means
But you're
you have
thinking about it all the time. Like, my parents are always stressed about work, always stressed about the relationships they have at work, or my friends, always thinking. And yeah, that's a good point. It's like the more you pay attention to that, that's
we're supposed to be gods. This is an illusion. This is
right.
what we're walking around in, well, we are infinite stars. We're infinite consciousness. We're just we're experiencing creation on this level, and we're creating on so many different levels that hell, half the damn time we're not even consciously aware that we're doing it, let alone how we're doing it, and the way in which we do it. We just are. But the thing is that when you keep your consciousness and thought and mind, I guess, because you can't put the two words together. But when you keep your consciousness, at the forefront of your mind, that it is beyond this, and that it abides on all levels at one time, then you're not limiting yourself. You're not,
You're tapping into your
you're not that 9 to 5 job. You're not that relationship. You're not, you're not this spokesperson. You're not this, you're not that, but you're all these things.
Wow.
We got to remember we are the infinite within the finite. Finite can come and go all day long, but the infinite is eternal. And, you know, and as being eternal, we shall wear the crown. The crown is ours to wear. Eternity smiles at us. You talk about the yawning of the abyss, the chasm of maw, the void.
Well, and that's where you can develop a healthy like appreciation for death, really, is what is it that allows infinity to experience itself in
Only in the
limitless potential? You get what I'm saying? Is to be bound by form.
only in the nothing do you realize what the thing is. When there is nothing, when all is not, and then you open your eyes. Hence the birth of the sun, creation of light, or whatever. And this is all symbolic poetry. You become aware, and so you've created just by looking upon a thing, so forth and so on. There's you've got to have this kind of not conscious awareness,
Depth.
but
Maybe.
you have to have this kind of conscious state of being at all times to truly tap into the power that you actually wield. To do all these cool things. The rest of it, as they say, is just frosting on the cake. But I think we've pretty much kept this going for an hour and a half.
Damn.
I want to say thank you to everybody for being here. Love each and every single one of you. Appreciate you, of course. And Zamara, thank you for being here with me tonight on this.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I hope I was able to contribute somewhat. Sometimes your wisdom is so far above, or not above, just, beyond the caliber of what I'm used to.
I'm definitely off planet Earth. But I've had a lot of good influences in my life, and both internal and external. But with that being said and done, I want to wish each and every single one of you peace, blessings, and power until next time.
Thank you again.